keeping a little. The other part is figuring out who the fuck we are.
Our mom needs to go away.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to go away, but you have to really look at the values that your mother has given you in your bad bucket to see how much are you like her and change those things or fucking accept them. That's what I had to do, Pluto in the 10th. I had to look and say, man,
My Venus is on.
I am not like my mom like this, but I am just like my mom in this. What do you have?
Gemini in the cusp, and then Mercury is on the left.
Okay, so that's groups, social activism, beliefs like, what do you believe in philosophically? What did you have?
I got the Sun and Mercury and number 6.
No, I told you it was on the cusp of your second.
Yeah, the Cubs is the Gemini.
Yes.
I told you Gemini, where's your Mercury?
It's on the 6.
Okay, so that's your work, that's your health, that's your day-to-day routine. So you really have to take a look at your work, what value your work brings. Do you work only for money? Your health, what is the purpose of health? What do you consider to be health?
Well, that's not
Six.
Okay, also a health thing, a day-to-day life, you're probably psychic in some realm. You probably have very deep, and if you don't, you will probably develop a very deep spiritual belief system throughout your life. What happens with people being a Pisces is that people that have Pisces or Neptune in their second house, they don't know who they are. And so it is a real existential crisis of who the fuck am I? And oftentimes, when we don't know who we are, we don't value ourselves. We don't value our money, so we throw money away. I'm the perfect example. So paying attention to how you spend your money, how you value yourself, not hating yourself, what your spiritual beliefs are, what were you taught that you believe, but really who are you as a spiritual being, that's going to be important. That's very similar to Nicole in the 9th house. What are your spiritual beliefs? So this is very good for you because it might give you a different viewpoint than what you've been brought up with. And now you'll be like, oh, wait, I like that or I don't like that. And you'll start to think. But it can affect your self-worth. If you don't know who you are, you're not going to value money, you're not going to value your body, you're not going to value yourself. That's a very Piscean thing. It's a beautiful thing because you could be past the material and be very spiritual and very psychic. But it's like everything, it's dual, it's a catch-22.
For the club, I had Aries and then I had Mars in the 8th house.
Okay, so you're just like Paula. You're going to have a major crisis in your values, in money, in other people's money. Sexual values are going to be questioned. That's going to be a big existential crisis. Do you use sex for manipulation? What's the value of sex in your life? Do other people have to support you financially? Where did you get that value system?
Okay.
That's crucial. Carmen, where do you have on the cusp?
For Gemini?
Gemini, and where do you have Mercury? This guy. He's
In the
perfect.
2nd house.
Oh, so you have Gemini on the cusp and Mercury in the second. Okay, so your whole thing is going to be financial and self-worth. But there's going to be a big theme with money. The value of money, how you make your money, how you spend your money, the purpose of money, and it's also going to be your self-worth. Am I worthy because I have money? Are people that have money more worth what? Things like that, those types of things. So these are the areas where you're going to have existential crisis. And you're going to probably notice that these are the themes with your clients that they're going to come with. So if you happen to use this tool to see clients, and again, you ask them their birthday and all that in their intake, you could see where their crisis is. It's always going to be a crisis of values. Going back to the buckets, what do you believe? That's why I asked the girl the other day, what are your beliefs around marriage? I said vows, for better or for worse. That's your answer. I don't need to tell her to get divorced or to stay with her husband. She just answered it. So this is a bad time, good will come, you set vows, you believe in those vows. Our job as a therapist is to bring the person to their value system. Remind them. And if they don't know, help them discover what they believe in, what their values are. Remember when I had you guys talk about what happens after you die? You know, where do you go? What's your belief about death? And a lot of you were like, I don't know. If you don't know, you have to figure it out. Because if not, what are you behaving? How is your actions dictated by those beliefs? You do have a belief, but you may have never really sat to think about it. So, meaning. Pluto is what gives meaning to things. How many of you have a belief about the meaning of life? Why are you here?
I'm still discovering that. It's a step. It's in the works.
Okay, anyone else? Why are you here? What did your parents teach you? What did religion teach you?
Oh,
What?
I won the race.
Okay, in your case, you won the race.
It's perfect.
Because that sperm won the race to the egg, yeah. But you really, that's your story. And man, did your parents go to the Olympics thousands of times until you and they won the gold. Somewhere in your psyche, you are a chosen one. That's why Leo is on the cusp of your second. Leo is the sun. We surround ourselves and pay homage to the sun. It's what keeps us alive. So you have a value system that you are worth something. Your life is worthwhile. You will not waste this existence because your parents, not only did they pay, but they worked so hard for you to be here. Therefore, you must find meaning and be something to make all that worth it. That is why you have Leo on the cusp of your second. In what house is your sun?
Fourth.
In the fourth. Your identity, figuring out that.
Mine's in the 6th, the sun.
Yeah, we're not doing the sun today. It just happens to be that she's on the cusp Leo and Leo goes to the sun. So just like you went to Venus or Mercury, she went to the sun.
What I'm trying to figure out is that line that you're talking about, it goes from the sun to somewhere else, but it's not what you said, so I don't know how you got it.
Yeah, no, that's specifically for her. But every single one of you have a story around your birth. That story around your birth, it happens to be that Sam's story around her birth, that her parents did IVF over and over and over again, and finally, they wanted her so badly, she finally was born. So the story around your birth gives you meaning, because you are being birthed into this world. If you don't know the story around your birth, find out. The story around my birth is that my mother got to the hospital and I was coming out and the doctor said, hold it. And my mom said, fuck you, you're allowed to hold it. And I came flying out and I almost fell to the ground, no anesthesia, and they caught me. And I have done every single thing in my life like that. Fuck you, I'm doing it. I don't care what you say, professional. Didn't I handle my cancers that way?
Yes.
And I move and I move and I move into life that way until
Busted your ass.
Pluto says, fuck you, bitch. Kneel, you are dying, you are nobody. You're being killed.
So what's
And so the story of your birth is how you move into cycles in your life until Pluto decides, sorry, you're going to get into line like everybody else. And that's why you die. And now, look at me. I used to wear heels, and I had long hair, and I would be pretty, and now I'm like,
I
We
really
like
love
your hair. I'm
your
sorry.
hair.
Your hair is like whatever other people want. So
We
I
love
hate
it.
it, but thank you.
yeah, but you know.
And I'm
people
beat
want it.
down. And I don't
Yeah.
fucking care. And I have no energy. And I get into bed at 4 o'clock because I'm in a major Pluto transit. Who the fuck has the fighting spirit like I used to have from the story of my birth? So the story of your birth is meaning to your life. And Pluto comes to say, we're changing the meaning. That's no longer true. And when the meaning of what is important is taken from you, fuck Costco. You are like, hang on, what is this all? And then you go through a huge crisis in the cocoon to discover new meaning. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, well, maybe the trees are God. And maybe this. And maybe drugs aren't bad. And let me go get high with my kids. And let me this, and let me that. And I'm trying new things, and I'm discovering a new meaning of life. I don't fucking know. I don't have a clue. But that's the process of being in the cocoon of the Pluto, is to have you try new things on for size. That's why when I was in the ayahuasca, zipped up to my head, my thoughts were non-fucking stop. Thought. I was like, make this stop. But that's what happens in a cocoon. You question everything until you come out the butterfly and you go, oh, the story has a meaning. And now I'm going to write a book and tell the world about the meaning. Because that's what people do. And guess what house is the house of death? The cocoon. For those of you who have your planet in there. The 8th.
Wait.
Opposite the second.
Nothing.
Because the second is what you value. And the 8th dies. Because you must kill this, die, and then reemerge with new values that are not your parents.
What's the thing with the U with the 2 little dots? That's Leo, right?
No, those are the nodes. Those are very karmic, and those will also kill you. That little circle shape, that's in another class.
I had that in 8.
I got that on
Okay,
5.
south or north? It looks like this, it looks like a horseshoe, or it looks like an N? Oh, yeah, you're gonna die so many times.
Wait.
And I have the chaos right next to it.
You're what?
I have the chaos right next to it.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute.
The what?
So,
Great.
the 8th house is a house of death, because it's across from your values, because you must kill your value system, going back from mom and dad, and come back and say, okay, I now believe this, I now value this, X, Y, Z. Oh, really? Thank you. So this is the cocoon house. So when, thank you, no, perfect. When you go into the cocoon house of death, what do you think the house right next to it is?
The Savior.
The beach.
Well, it is the spiritual house. It's the house of the teacher. I died and survived the fucking cocoon. I had to go write a class about it. I gotta write a book about it. I know some of these people, and I have to spread the message to the whole world.
What if you don't have it?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, you have a cusp. So,
I had too much.
from the cocoon, we all emerge the butterfly. All because we have to go back to the value system from the moment of conception to your motherfucker and your fatherfucker and say, Mom and Dad, thank you so much for giving me life. That is all you have to do. The rest of the job is mine. Therefore, when we really heal, and if we do this correctly, we should forgive our parents for birthing us and bringing us into a flawed flesh. Your parents couldn't give you the fucking puzzle. They all tried. Every single one of us threw the puzzle to the floor and said, no, I'm going to figure it out myself. And that's why we are here. And this is a this is called an axis. The 2-8 axis is super, super important because it's all about the values. Yes.
I don't have anything.
You might not have a planet, but you have a sign on the cusp. And it's going to be the opposite sign of whatever you have in the second. Every sign is an opposite sign. That's not important. The importance was the cocoon. After you get out of the cocoon, you become the butterfly. Human beings show their wings by writing a book, teaching a class, making art projects, having a kid. That's how we get out of death. Why, I'll close up with this. Why does every funeral home have a hotel next to it?
Because we gotta go release our anger.
What? I didn't know it's that.
Every
Yeah.
funeral home has a hotel or a motel next to it.
So we're
The
gonna go
eighth
have
house,
sex
the
after
eighth
that.
house is the house of
Wait.
death and the house of sex.
Yeah.
What happens when we die? What happens when someone dies? We gotta fuck to create a new person. We have to fill the void. So you die in the funeral and the people next door are having sex symbolically. Because you don't ever have a baby every time you have sex. Because the energy cannot be created or destroyed, it needs to be transformed. Pluto, being the house, the eighth house of sex and rebirth, is transformation. Wherever you have Pluto, you will transform over and over and over again. So that's why hotels and funeral homes are next to one another.
Is that why I'm so fucked? I'm gonna keep transforming and transforming and transforming.
We all are. Man, know thyself. That is why, George, I poke and I prod and I push and I make you question your thoughts and I don't just listen to your story and go, oh my God, no. I say, no, that's not true, go deeper. That's our job.
Okay, question.
One question and then we
How
go.
do you know when that house is gonna happen?
You know?
The transits. You don't have that. The transits are the planets and where they are right now. Today, all I told you was that Pluto was in Capricorn. That's the transits. That, it says it. The chart shows you everything. That's when the archetypes are awakened. You guys have all these archetypes, but some of them are dormant. Some of them are asleep. Then a planet is going to come and wake it up, and all of a sudden you're going to have to go move prints. That's the transit. That's another class. Any questions about existential crisis? We will do chaos on Thursday.
How do you rebuke it?
What do you mean by rebuke? Just vomit it
Read
through.
it.
What do you mean by rebuke?